The night was cold, and the wind outside howled through the broken trees on Miller Road. Lucas could not sleep. He had just moved into the old two-story house with his sister Sarah. They thought they found a good deal, cheap rent, big rooms, quiet town, but from the first night something felt wrong. The air inside the house smelled old, not like dust or paint, but like something dead and buried beneath the floor. He tried to laugh it off, told Sarah it was just the smell of an old place. She smiled nervously and said maybe we should open the basement tomorrow for some air. But the landlord had said one thing clearly: do not open the basement door, not for any reason. That night the house spoke in ways they did not understand. The walls creaked, the pipes groaned, but underneath those sounds came whispers, faint like distant voices calling their names. Lucas, Lucas, come downstairs. Lucas, we are waiting. He thought it was a dream until he sat up and saw the basement door slightly open, though they never touched it. A faint light flickered behind it like the glow of candles. He called out Sarah, but she was asleep in the next room. He stepped closer, his heart thudding heavy with each step. He felt the cold seep through the floorboards. His fingers brushed the doorknob. It was wet like sweat or something alive. He opened it just a little more, and the smell hit him, a rotting metallic scent that made him gag. In that darkness, he thought he saw movement, shapes shifting, but when he blinked it was gone. The next morning Sarah asked who he was talking to last night. He said no one, and she said she heard him whispering for hours from downstairs, but he swore he never left his bed. She didn't believe him. They argued until a loud thump came from the basement, so loud it rattled the cups in the kitchen. They froze. The sound came again, slower, heavier, like a fist hitting wood. Sarah whispered, maybe someone broke, and they called the landlord again. No answer. Only static and faint breathing on the other end. By the third night the air in the house felt wrong. Every shadow seemed to move a little when they looked away, and the basement door, no matter how many times they locked it, always opened by itself at exactly 3 a.m. The fourth night, Lucas heard a child laughing from the basement, a sound so clear he thought a kid was really there. He ran down, turned on his flashlight, and saw the basement stretch deeper than it should have, like the stairs had grown longer, each step echoing into an endless pit. At the bottom, he saw a mirror covered in dust leaning against the wall. He wiped it clean and saw himself standing, but his reflection smiled. Even though he was not smiling, it raised its hand and pointed behind him. When he turned, he saw nothing, but heard breathing close behind his ear, slow, heavy, cold. The reflection whispered, without moving its lips, you should not have come down here. He ran up the stairs, slamming the door shut, but when he looked around the living room, everything was slightly different. The furniture had moved. The pictures on the wall showed faces he did not recognize, strangers staring straight out of the frames, their eyes wide like they were screaming silently. He called out for Sarah, no reply. He went to her room. The bed was empty, but the window was open, cold air blowing the curtains. She was gone. Hours passed. The house felt alive. The lights flickered, the walls groaned, and he began to hear voices everywhere, some whispering his name, others crying, some laughing. In the dark, he grabbed his phone to call 911, but every number he dialed only gave him the same whispering voice, saying, leave the house or join us. He dropped the phone. It cracked on the floor. He turned toward the basement again, the door wide open, a single light flickering below. He heard Sarah's voice from the dark, help me, Lucas, please. Help me. He hesitated, but then he saw her shadow on the wall stretching from the stairs. He ran down, calling her name. The air got colder, his breath visible in the light. He saw her standing in front of the mirror, facing away from him, her voice trembling, saying, he won't let me leave. He took a step closer, and she turned around, but her face was not her face anymore. Her eyes were white, her mouth black and wide. She screamed, not in sound, but in silence. The walls vibrated, and he fell to his knees. The figure behind her moved. It was tall, too tall to be human, its arms long enough to touch the ceiling, its skin black and smooth like oil. It reached out to him, its voice echoing inside his head, saying, you opened the door, now you stay forever. He tried to run, but the stairs were gone, only darkness above, and the sound of a door slamming shut somewhere far away. The last thing he saw before the light went out was his reflection in the mirror, reaching out, begging for help. The police came the next morning after neighbors complained of loud noises, but the house was empty. The front door open, the furniture gone, only the basement door sealed with wooden planks. They broke it open and found a room that did not exist on the blueprints, deeper than the foundation. Inside, they found 2 chairs facing an old mirror, and written across the wall in dried brown letters were the words, they opened the door. Months later, a new family moved in, a husband, a wife, and their young daughter. The landlord never told them what happened. The first week was peaceful, until one night the little girl came running to her parents, saying there was a nice lady in the basement who played with her. The parents laughed, said, "Sweetie, there is no basement." The next night the father woke to the sound of footsteps coming from below. He got up, walked to the living room, and froze. The basement door, which was supposed to be sealed, stood wide open. A cold wind blew from the darkness below, and a faint voice called softly, "Come down and see what we found." The father stepped closer, the air colder with every breath. He looked down, and in the dim light he saw two figures standing at the bottom, a man and a woman, both pale, both smiling. The man lifted his hand and waved, saying, "Welcome home," and the father realized he could not move his feet, as if the darkness itself had wrapped around him, pulling him down slowly, inch by inch. The last thing he heard was the sound of the basement door closing gently behind him. Now the house on Miller Road stands empty again, the grass overgrown, the windows black. But sometimes at night the neighbors say they see light flickering from the basement window, and if you walk close enough you might hear two voices whispering softly in the dark, one male, one female, both saying the same thing again and again: "We are still here, we are waiting." It had been 7 months since anyone last lived in the house on Miller Road. Neighbors said the place was cursed. They said every family who entered disappeared, and no one ever came out, but rumors only made people more curious. So when a popular American paranormal show called The Shadow Files USA heard about the story, they decided to film an episode there. They arrived in early November, 5 people, 2 hosts named Ryan and Kelly there, cameraman Blake there, sound guy Adam, and a new intern named Jenna, who had never been on a ghost hunt before. The house looked worse than the photos. The windows were broken, the front porch sagged, and the grass reached up to their knees. The air felt heavy the closer they got. Ryan looked at the others and said, "Perfect, this is the kind of energy we want for the show." He pushed open the front door. It groaned loud, as if the house was sighing inside. It smelled like mold and old wood. Kelly gagged and joked, "Wow, it smells like something died in here." Blake laughed uneasily, but none of them noticed the faint sound from beneath the floor, a slow rhythmic tapping, like someone knocking from under the ground. They began setting up cameras, 1 in each room, 2 in the basement. Ryan said, "The story goes a brother and sister vanished here after they opened the basement door. Locals say it leads somewhere else, but no one really knows where." Jenna whispered, "Maybe hell." And Adam laughed, saying, "Hell probably smells better than this." They powered up their night vision lights, and the house glowed green through their monitors. Ryan stood in front of the basement door, speaking to the camera. "Tonight, we will find out what really happened to Lucas and Sarah Miller, and whether the legends of this haunted basement are true." They began filming around midnight. For 2 hours, nothing happened, only strange temperature drops, flickering lights, and faint whispers that came and went like static. But then, at exactly 3 a.m., the basement camera picked up something, a shadow moving past the lens. Even though no one was down there, Blake checked his monitor and froze, saying, "Ryan, there is something in the basement." Ryan grabbed his flashlight and told the others to follow. They descended the stairs slowly, every creak echoing too loud. In the silence, the air grew cold enough for their breath to show. At the bottom, the smell was thick, metallic, like old blood. Ryan swept his light across the walls, revealing hundreds of handprints smeared on the concrete, all facing outward. Jenna gasped, saying, "Oh my God, who did this?" But then she noticed the mirror at the far end of the room, tall and cracked, its frame carved with letters. They spelled out one phrase again, and again. They opened the door. Ryan stared at it, whispering the same words under his breath. Suddenly, his mic cut out. Static filled the earpieces. The cameras glitched for 3 seconds, then everything went silent. When the feed came back, the mirror was fogged up, as if someone had breathed on it from the other side and written 5 words: "Help us, we are here." Adam said, "This is a joke, right? Please tell me this is a prank." But no one spoke. Ryan stepped closer and touched the glass. It was ice cold. Then a face appeared behind his reflection, pale eyes, wide mouth open in a silent scream. He jumped back, screaming, "Get out of here!" But when they turned, the stairs were gone, replaced by a black hallway stretching endlessly downward. They ran, but the hall never ended. Their lights flickered, and the whispers returned, louder this time, sounding like many voices layered together, some crying, some laughing, some calling their names: Ryan, Kelly, Blake, Jenna, Adam. Jenna began crying, saying, "Please stop, I don't want to die here." And from the dark ahead, something answered in her own voice, saying, "You already did." She screamed and ran forward, disappearing into the black. The others chased her, but she was gone. The hallway bent, twisted, like the inside of a nightmare. They came to another room, one none of their cameras had shown before. Inside stood a wooden chair facing a single television, flickering on its own, playing static. Then an image appeared, a recording of Lucas from the first story, his face pale, his eyes sunken. He was whispering into the camera, "If you see this, do not open the mirror. It is not a reflection. It is a door. It leads to them. They can mimic you. They can wear your face." Blake shouted, "Turn it off," but the TV would not stop. The image kept looping, Lucas looking straight at them, whispering, "They already know your names." The mirror behind the chair began to ripple like water, and from it a hand reached out, black and thin, grabbing Adam by the neck. He screamed as he was dragged inside. Ryan and Kelly tried to pull him back, but the mirror swallowed him whole. The room shook, the lights exploded, and the mirror shattered into pieces, each shard showing a different reflection. Some showed the team screaming, others showed Lucas and Sarah standing behind them smiling. Ryan and Kelly ran back up the hallway that seemed to shrink behind them. They burst through the basement door and into the main hall, gasping for air. But when they looked around, the house was not the same. The furniture was old, covered in dust like decades had passed outside the windows. Everything was gray, the sky, the trees, even the grass. Kelly whispered, "Are we still alive?" And from the corner of the room, a childlike voice answered softly, "Yes, but not here anymore." They turned and saw a little girl, standing barefoot in the doorway, her eyes pure white, her smile too wide. She said, "Welcome home," before the basement door slammed shut again. 2 months later, the Shadow Files channel uploaded one last video titled The Miller Road Investigation Final Episode. It was 34 minutes long. The first 20 minutes were normal, then the footage cut to static and screams, and finally to a still frame of the basement mirror, perfectly clean and unbroken, showing the entire team standing together, smiling, their eyes black. The video was deleted 2 hours later, but some viewers claimed they saw their own reflections move differently while watching, and a few said that ever since they watched it, they sometimes hear knocking sounds beneath their floors every night at exactly 3 a.m. And somewhere on Miller Road, the house still stands silent, abandoned, but if you walk by after midnight, you might see a flickering blue light in the window, and if you listen closely, you will hear voices whispering in perfect unison. We open the door, and now the door is always open.